You are at Lake Rant, where I rant about whatever my $15 a month plus patrons want me to rant about. You can get one of these by being one of those. This one is for No Ground, who says, rant about the Lovecraft Mythos. Now, to be honest, I don't know that much about the Lovecraft Mythos on an extended level. I've only read a sort of random spattering of Lovecraft stories, and Lovecraft stories in themselves don't really seem to have much of a connected mythos. Most of them, they might make reference to some, like a bunch of names or an idea of a mythos without really clarifying much about it, and much of the point of the stories is to be vague and mysterious and, to hint at something bigger than what they show. So, from what I understand, the development of the Lovecraft mythos had more to do with the fact that Lovecraft was an extensive letter writer. He had correspondence with lots of other authors, and they sort of fleshed out this universe together. And you could say that the Lovecraft mythos was something that he sort of left to his disciples or the people who he worked with, in that they were the ones who took over and really expanded the mythos after he had died. Using all these sort of in jokes, I guess, that him and his people he contacted had built through their correspondence. I know that Don Jolly knows a lot more about this stuff. He told me some stuff about Lovecraft and his contacts and shit like that, and the letters he would write. I'd love to see him do some kind of video about the Lovecraft mythos, expanding on it in some way. I'd love to learn more myself. I know the names of certain monsters. I know, I've played Arkham Horror, so I've got some sense of some creatures from the Lovecraft mythos, but I've never dove deep into it. I've never played Call of Cthulhu or anything like that to know those kinds of those creatures. But I do think Lovecraftian horror, as a genre, is one of my favorites. The cosmic horror, as really just an existential thought, is something I'm a big fan of, and I tend to write, like absurdist sort of cosmic horror stuff into my own stories. But the actual mythos of Lovecraft, as much as I appreciate that, like, it's very different from traditional fantasy stuff, ultimately, any mythos, I think, eventually just becomes a crutch, a shorthand for fantasy authors, just a quick way to, establish something by using names that people have heard before. For instance, in my light novel, I have Yog Sothoth as the main villain, just because, like, it just calling to the fact that it's a Lovecraft monster immediately tells you what the bad guy is, and I don't have to explain anything. It's just using meta text for shorthand, basically. So, yeah, that's kind of the main understanding of it that I have.